We're live.
We are live. Let me smash the thumbs up button while we're live.
Thanks, buddy.
Make sure I like the video, but it's not showing me live over there yet.
I'm a little behind, but I'm trying some different technology and trying to make it work better. I know my sound isn't really very good.
You can't hear me. That might be a blessing in disguise.
Well, sometimes. I wasn't going to say anything.
It's all good, man. I know.
Welcome to the
Woodshop. So, yeah.
It's a good day to be working in here, I'll tell you. Things have really improved outside, but it's a stormy and miserable day. Wow, it's so windy. There's snow blowing like crazy. It's even blew some shingles off my house.
Really? I can't usually hear when it gets windy. You'll hear like the garage doors and stuff kind of rattle, but I don't hear any of that in the background for yours. So either your mic is really good for noise canceling, or
this is a fairly new building, so it's pretty tight. But I can hear it once in a while.
Okay.
It's a tall building. It's a 10-foot wall. It's got a 612 pitch on it, so that the peak of this building is really tall. So it'll catch a lot of wind, and that wind is coming right from the north against the gable. I can hear it creaking a little bit.
33 Mile B says he walked to the barn and back and started sweating. It's 34 degrees.
34. Was 40 kilometer an hour winds here, and I was talking to Ian. He said it's up to 90 at his place. Just 90 kilometers an hour. That's 55 miles an hour.
Well, let me tell you how this works in the life of Bob, and probably similarly in your life. So I had this whole beekeeping agenda today. Like, first thing, wanted to go bottle up some honey, and I did that.
Your beekeeping agenda turned into a beekeeping adventure?
Yes. First things first. I said, okay, I'm going to go bottle the honey. So I bottled most of what was in the bottling tank, and there was a little honey in the bottom, right? And so I'm like, let me go ahead and take another 5-gallon pail and just put it in there, and I'll just get it all bottled so I can clean up my tank and, get it put up for the year and all that. And the next bucket I get is like concrete. And I go to tip the bucket in because, usually the top might be soft and just easy to scrape out into the warmer. But I started tipping, and I've been wearing that brace on my wrist. Well, it kind of gave out, and the whole 5-gallon pail turned upside down and went right in my bottling tank. Boosh!
Oh no!
It just like a
it goes sploosh, right?
Yeah, it did. Luckily, it was low enough in the tank that it didn't get out of the tank. And then I pull that out and get about 3/4 of the bucket, but the bottom was just solid. So now I've got a honey-covered bucket I have to take out of the building, wash off, and now once the bees clean the rest of that off, I'll be able to take it into my warming cabinet and get the rest of that out of there. At least, just soften it up to where I can get it out into the bottler. But that's how it started. So then I'm covered in honey, and I strip off my hoodie, and I come in here and sit down for it couldn't have been 30 seconds, and I get a ding, and I look, oh, Brad messaged, and I click, hey, want to do a Woodshop live? So there goes the rest of my day.
I'm sorry, buddy.
Hey, but you know what? I could have said no, right? But I didn't. That's the whole thing. Is that I just said,
share the link, and you can be on your way.
Yeah. We'll go live, and
I'll be right back.
So it's kind of it's just one of those days where it's cold. What I wanted to do was get the reason I want to bottle all that honey up is so I can organize and clean my honey house and straighten it out to where, it's a little more accessible. But it was it was a pretty good day so far. I did 2 cases of 1-pounders and 12 3-pounders, and I still had a good bit of honey in the tank, but it's just, it's funny. And maybe this is a purchase thing, or Bobism or something, but when you're going to buy equipment, right? And this goes back to what we talked about with James the other night about buying equipment and shiny things, right? So, and it's like a whole 2 years worth of off and on conversations about buying equipment. And so when I was buying, I definitely wanted a heated bottling tank. And sizing, right? What size do I need? Like, what size is your bottling tank?
Bigger,
right? And how many gallons do you figure it holds, or pounds? We'll do it in pounds. More.
That's the rule.
Well,
that's
mine holds
your wallet.
Yeah, so mine holds 18 gallons, right? I think I've only ever had it at like maybe 15 gallons because I leave a little space in there, and I don't want too much weight on my table because I really don't know how much it'll hold, right?
I'll take 3. That might take 4 of my buttons, so getting an idea what you're talking about.
So my thing is, did I need an 18-gallon if I never fill it up to 18 gallons? Why did I buy 18 gallons if I'm only ever going to put 2 buckets in at a time? I could have got a 10-gallon or a 12-gallon or something like that. So now, could I? I mean, it's always nice to say, yeah, I could. If I needed a whole bunch of honey at one time, then maybe it's fine. But yeah, see, Phil said I wanted the Hilco 17-gallon, but it was sold out, so I bought the 32-gallon, right? You literally bought a garden trash can worth of honey container, right? So,
but definitely something needs to be on wheels or permanent location kind of thing. Like if you've got a little honey house, like Joey has, for example, or Mike Berry, you can probably arrange a permanent place for that and set it up.
Yeah, and that's what's going to happen. I'm going to rearrange my honey house and move some things around. But
like my wax melter, it's big, but it doesn't really have a permanent location per se, but it's easily movable. It's on a stand that I can move with the pallet jack. So,
and I'm a pretty firm believer, and I believe you would probably concur with this. If you're going to buy a bottling tank, don't waste your money on one that's not jacketed or heated. I'll say heated because mine's not jacketed, not my bottling tank. Because what I found out,
tank is not heated. Like, how do you do that? Bottling tank is not heated. That kind of doesn't. That's the car without wheels, right? To me. Because that's kind of the idea of a bottling tank.
You might as well just use a gated valve.
A gated pail. Yeah, use the gated pail.
Do that.
Which you can do. I've done that lots. I don't have a bottling tank other than my melter.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, but with even I bottled a bunch and then I turned it off, right? I didn't have it going. But guess what happens in that bottling tank? Oh, it'll crystallize. It'll solidify in there. And it takes a lot longer to get it ready to, get that honey ready to go and bottle at that rate. Yeah. And I went out there, 2 or 3 days stirring it to get it ready to go in the bottle. And if it was just a steel pot with a gate valve on it, like some of them I see on the market, how would I ever get that out? I would be using a torch on the outside to warm the outside of the container or something, to try to get it to float.
I relate to that because, again, I don't have bottling tank. I have a gated pail. I have a bee blanket for it, which works well, except it's really not very warm. So if you've got stuff that's just solid, it's not going to work. So if I need to deal with that, then I go up to my cabinet. I put that whole gated pail in my warming cabinet, and that sits there for a while.
But bee blankets are kind of
it's not a convenient solution because usually my cabinet's full of honey that I'm getting ready to pack. So it doesn't just sit there empty. My cabinet is almost never empty.
And a bee blanket is $160.
they're not cheap. They're a very good product. One of the things I like about the product is also the downside is they don't get really warm. They won't overheat your honey. So what I find when I use it is that I'll fold up towels and put under the pail, and then I'll wrap towels around the pail and put towels on top just to insulate the thing, just to conserve the
energy,
the heat inside it. And that's sitting in the house. It's sitting at room temperature. It's not in a cool building at all.
Well, I used to keep all my honey in the house, but it plugged up the whole kitchen, right? So then I was like, well, I'll just leave it put it in the honey house.
Yeah. Well, and I don't keep it in the house. I haul everything in when I want to do something. I haul things in and then I haul them out again. It's a real pain.
Well, it's fine to keep it in the honey house, other than my honey house isn't heated, right? Like yours isn't. So everything, kind of like you, everything before it can be sold has to go into the warmer for a day or two at least. I
don't have a honey house in the winter.
Clarify.
My honey house is my bee storage. So once the bees go in, I've got no honey house, really. I have storage. I store my honey in there, but as far as honey house, there's nothing goes on in there.
In true Bob fashion, I derailed the stream, which this is the Woodshop Live. What are we doing in the Woodshop today?
Do whatever we want on a Woodshop Live. Well, see, I often spoil the vlog on my Woodshop Lives. I catch you up, and then you get all the repeats on the vlog. Well, let me tell you what I did yesterday. I put a real hurting on my body yesterday, and I realized after I went to bed, I couldn't hardly sleep because my body hurt so bad. So it's very nice weather yesterday. It wasn't windy. It wasn't cold. It wasn't sunny, but it wasn't cold. So I
not
used
cold
the day,
for you.
What's that?
Not cold for you.
Well, not cold for January.
Don't tell me those stories, because I know. Oh, it's not cold for February, and when I left, it was like a damn.
And that
blizzard.
wasn't really that cold. It was a bit windy and stormy, but it wasn't that cold. So yeah, I mean, it was just below freezing. It wasn't really very cold. I was working out there just in my running shoes, my jacket, my no gloves or hat or anything, and it was fine. But so what I did was I had to unload my big shed to get access to all my lumber supply. So I got that all taken out, reload the big shed. And in that process, I've had these 2 little pallets of hardwood that I've been storing for many years, and they were just being a pain in the big shed, moving them around, and they fall off the pallet, and I got to pick them up. So I thought, I think I can get those on my lumber racks in my wood shop. So I did. So I brought them in here, and I'll show you here what I'm talking about. So this lumber rack here.
Yep.
Probably about half of that lumber I put up there yesterday. And the 1-inch lumber is fine, but it's actually, in that world, is called 4/4 and 8/4. The thick stuff is 8/4, and it's a good 2 inches or a little more thick. And those big pieces up top, oh come on, weatherman, the big pieces up top here are 2-inch, 8/4. They're 9 feet long and about 8 inches wide. And they weigh.
You wouldn't want to put the thicker, heavier stuff on the bottom. We got to put it on top.
No, you can't do that. Well, the bottom was already full. So and they weigh about 100 pounds a piece, I think. And so I got those up there, and I was getting so played out. And then this side, got the same thing. I've got this rack here. So I put 2 of those big pieces of, it's white oak is what it is. It's very heavy. I got 2 of those pieces up here, so you can see how big they are. And again, they're 9 feet long. And I got my ladder, you see. And by the time I was done that, I thought, oh boy, I'm so played out that I'm going to have an accident if I keep going. So there's 2 pieces of maple here that need to be put away, but I don't
Not
want to have an
today.
accident. So I want to be in good form before I try that.
Yeah.
Because boy, they're heavy. Man, are they ever heavy.
Well, you don't know what muscles you haven't used in a while, right?
Oh yeah, my whole sides and my shoulders, my back and everything. Because yeah, if you get in the ladder, then I have to lean way over and push this heavy plank
Well,
up on the rack.
but some people in the chat, I mean, I know exactly. I went and did that one Amazon shift
Yeah.
day before yesterday for 4 hours, right? And most of the boxes are not very heavy, but you're getting in and out of the car over and over and over again, lifting the tailgate, walking, you're just active constantly. And the next day, after you've laid in bed for 8 hours, I think rigor mortis started in. I mean,
Yeah, it's not arthritis; it's early onset rigor mortis.
Yeah.
For us old guys. Yeah.
So it made it a little difficult yesterday trying to grab a.
No, I mean, I was able to accomplish that, but I was getting so played out that I didn't want to have an accident. I did drop one piece, but it wasn't that bad. It kind of fell on my leg, and so I think I don't know if I have a bruise. Maybe not. So I didn't want anything bad to happen, and I thought I'll just leave this for a day or two, and then I'll go try it again.
I can't bottle honey without finding like a honey. You see that honey spot right there? How in the world can it be like when you take a bucket that's had honey in it and drop it outside for the bees to clean up?
Half of it comes back in with you.
Yeah. It's like, how do they? I mean, they got to have it on all their feet and wings and everything. I guess they get inside and they just get cleaned up and like a car wash and back out again. Spread it.
So what do you see what's on the bench?
Let's see it.
All right. I'm a little bit red faced about this whole thing. So you may be familiar with the grain samples box, and it's looking actually pretty good. I like the way it looks. I like the way the finish came out. But it's about a 1/16 of an inch too small both ways to get the jars in. The jars won't fit in it. And I pondered how to modify it to make that work. And I decided that it was probably just going to end up a mess. And so I started over again.
Started a new one. I like it.
And now, having figured out, decided how I'm going to do things and what I'm going to do and everything, this didn't take that long. The glue up is it takes a while because you have to wait for the glue. But it's going pretty good.
Is the slot along the top there? What are you going to do with that? Is there a piece that slides in there? Yep.
Yeah. I'll bring the camera down. I'll show you. Okay, so the idea, for those that are not sure what this is, these slats will go along the side here. So that's my next job, is to glue these on. And then I have all jars. There's jars of different grains that are supposed to go inside here. So like that. Let's see, they actually fit, which is awesome. And then this is supposed to be just a display piece. So the jars are actually going to be captive. The last thing I do is put this piece in that slot and glue it in. I'm not going to push it in all the way because it's kind of tight. So that'll prevent the jars from coming out. You won't be able to tip them enough to get them out and lift them or anything. So yeah. So that's the idea there.
So just the one slat on the bottom?
Yeah, one slat on each side, and then you've got space here so you can see the display. and then the one little captive piece on top. And it's supposed to be kind of like one of those old toolboxes, you know, old wooden
Right.
toolbox. So let's see, did I get it right?
Or isn't that similar to the old milkman used to bring milk in?
Yeah, actually, that's right. That's another use for that. So yeah, all right. Well, that's the deal. And this is red oak. This is actually repurposed red oak. I took an old coffee table and cut it up and made my project.
Looks nice.
And then I use a red oak stain on that. It does look nice. The paper towel stuck to it, but that's okay. So the red oak stain does look nice. And then I ran a shellac finish on top of that. It's just a display piece. It's not going to be in the weather at all. It's not like a coffee table where somebody's going to set a glass that's going to sweat on it. So shellac is just fine for that. It's easy to work with, and it's a nice finish too, because it's not what somebody might think of as a toxic finish. It's actually edible. You can actually eat shellac. You do eat shellac. It's used in food production quite a bit. So that's what's going on in the shop.
How many of those are you going to make?
Just the one.
Just one? Something like that was heavy duty would be good if you could load it up and carry it from your car into the store. If you had your logo on it, you'd have and carry your jars right into the store, unload them, fill up your shelf, and carry them back to the car, right? One trip.
Trouble with wood is it gets really heavy when you try to build something that's strong.
Right. That's true.
These days it's going to be plastic, it's much lighter. But so I have to figure out what to do with this. I'll either, I don't know, work it into selling honey or something, maybe a gift box for somebody. I don't know. It has to have a different kind of a jar in it though, because these jars won't fit.
Well, what's the old adage? Measure twice, cut once.
Yeah. I usually get that the other way around. It's like measure once, cut once, swear for a while, then cut again. And how come? Here's the thing. This is the Murphy's Law part of that. Is when you make a bad cut, it's never too long. It's never, well, I'll just trim that. It's like, well, now it's a quarter of an inch too short.
Right.
That's not the way it works.
And if it was a little too long, you'd be like, oh, you know what? I could just maybe put a little divider section in there so it holds 6 and it's.
You just trim it off. It's like, oh, I cut that wrong. It's a little too long. I'll cut it again. It's like, no, if you cut it wrong, it's going to be too short.
But then you're like, man, I wasted a 1/16 of an inch in sawdust on the floor.
Yeah.
Or something.
And this box is probably a 1/16 or less too small in each direction. So for that much, and if it was too long, it would be, oh, they're going to rattle around a little bit. We're going to put some back.
It's not only that though. It's not that it was too short, but it was too short, and you can't replace that piece. It's not like you can just knock it out and put another piece in there. So however many hours you had into that box, now you have to use that many hours again to remake the project in that instance, right?
I had it all cut out, machined, because I get the dado blade and machine these and do the things with the jig and all that stuff. So I had it all cut out, ready to assemble in it one afternoon, right? So that was a Friday, so Wednesday. I guess it was Wednesday afternoon I did that once I figured out my mistake. And then I pondered for quite a while how to fix my mistake. Then I just come to the realization that it's best that I not try and fix that mistake. It's best to just do it again.
Do it again.
And I had almost not enough lumber to do it again.
You could
It's surprising how much lumber something like this takes. It's really shocking.
then you could take your brand and put your brand on each end.
I could. Got my brand here. I'm humble though. I put my brand on the bottom. See that?
Now you bought that brand somewhere, right? You
Yeah.
just ordered it.
It's always easy for me to remember because the outfit where I bought, I just ordered online. I said, where can I buy a brand for my wood shop? And the outfit was called Brand New.
Brand new. There you go, DC.
Yeah. And so they have, standard designs. This is a standard design that I gave them my name. So their standard design is this, and then handcrafted by, and then I just called it Faith Woodcraft for my wood shop stuff. But then you can actually send them all your own artwork if you want, and they'll create a brand out of that. Just a lot more money than using one of their standard ones. But
well,
yeah, it's pretty
standard
cool.
when they go in the computer, they erase the name and put a new name in there, and good to go.
But they'll have all these blanks, and they just.
Randy says to use a wood stretcher, Brad.
Yeah, I need a wood stretcher. There's an emergency thing coming over my phone.
It's the weather. They're telling you it's going to be bad.
Okay, here it is. It is. That's exactly what it is. Manitoba emergency alert. Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure has issued a hazardous road conditions alert due to high winds and blizzard-like conditions. Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure is asking motorists to avoid driving on all roadways in southern Manitoba as conditions are worsening and visibility is near zero, with multiple highways being closed. Environment Canada yesterday put out an alert, and they used a term that I had never seen them in my life use. They said in their alert that travel will be impossible. That's bad. For a Manitoban, that's bad.
That's pretty bad.
That's really bad.
And when I was up there, there was something that I noticed that Canada does that we don't do here in the States, right? So we just run snow plows and push it all off to the side of the road. You guys actually put it in dump trucks and haul it to a location and then drop it on location.
Yeah, we got to get rid of it because there's too much. There's nowhere to put it on the side of the road. And, when you put it on the side of the road, it's going to be there for what, a week?
Or longer.
Yeah, but it's going to melt pretty soon.
It's like
here it's going to melt. Like those big snow piles where they put all that snow, there's some of those piles that don't melt ever.
Wow.
They're so big. There's so much snow there. It doesn't melt. Completely gone sometimes all summer.
And when I say here, I mean the United States, not South Carolina, because if we get a quarter of an inch, the whole state shuts down.
Yeah.
When
we get a quarter of an inch, we just call it Monday. It's like,
is brand new in Canada?
No, it's not. It's in the United States. I think it's West Coast, but don't quote me on that.
Let me Google it.
Just look it up.
Brand new.
But of course, I've had that for 10 years, so who knows? Maybe they're out of business.
I guess that would be wood brand.
Thanks for tuning in, Brian.
Brand New Industries, highest quality branding irons with your logo texture design. I will drop a link in. I think I can do that on YouTube.
The weather actually just cleared up here. I don't know if maybe it's going to continue to.
Brandnew.net.
Is that what they are?
Yep. Custom brands. I guess they make them all different shapes and sizes.
Yeah, part of that Environment Canada warning was it said how did they put it? You're likely going to get temperatures that you haven't seen in years or something. They were talking about wind chills below -40.
Yeah, that's pretty low.
So I mean, that's cold even for us. That's really cold.
Let's see.
Is it Doug? Is it cooling off where you are? Is it pretty cold now? Because it was only -5 here.
I got an email from one of my customers this morning that said, "Hey, we still have open POs for this order. Can you tell us where the product is?" Now, it's not like they ordered last week, right? So I had to go back through. I had to look and see when they sent the email asking for it. Then I had to go to my invoicing system and find the date that I invoiced it. And then, of course, it had the tracking number. So I tracked it. Oh, it shows it was delivered. Copy that, email it back to them and say, "Here's the tracking number. It said it was delivered on this date." And they were like, "Oh, great, thanks." So I'm hopeful because that means one of two things. Either it just got lost and they didn't register it in the system, or they're out again and they were looking for the product and couldn't find it, right?
Because they sold it.
Because they sold it. So I'm hoping they sold it. So
How long? What was the time elapsed?
they bought that the last day of September.
Oh yeah.
And they received it on the 3rd day of October. But so they probably didn't sell it out if they probably just put it somewhere and don't know where it's at.
So does anybody want to see anything in particular in the wood shop? I'm not really working on a whole lot but this little box right now. So is there anything you're interested in?
Well, I'll ask you.
Machines or anything?
So obviously this is a side business to your honey production, your bee business.
Yeah, it just kind of keeps me busy in the winter.
And they do kind of intermingle, right? Because you do bee
because I built
woodworking
things for myself too. Yeah.
So once said box is done, what is next up on the agenda? What's the next thing you got to go into starting to make?
I have an order for a few of my 3-way pallets for the 6-frame nuke boxes. So I'll be building the pallets and the covers for those. And of course, I don't build boxes, so I don't get into that. I've got plans, Rodney, for a grandfather, and that oak up on the rack is kind of earmarked for grandfather clock. There's a lot of stuff I want to build, but when orders come by, they kind of take precedent in the wood shop.
Money goes.
And then I want to build some stuff for myself. I do want to build a few more 3-ways for myself. I want to build some bee escapes that I've wanted to build for the last 5 years for myself. I kind of think every year I should build a few swarm traps, mostly just to put a swarm trap at each of my out yards. So I'd like to maybe
try to maintain some of your own colonies that might swarm during the year.
Well, yeah, I don't know if my colony swarms and the swarm trap is right beside the apiary. Will that swarm take up in that box? I don't know if that's the way it works. I don't trap swarms, so I don't know how it all works. But I always feel like I should do that. What else? I think there was some other stuff I wanted to build. Yeah, nothing's coming to mind right now.
Well, I know you got some pallets coming for a guy.
Yeah.
To build.
Got a little order for pallets. I think it's 20. It's 20 pallets, 60 lids.
So that's not bad.
Oh, those honey super pallets that I built last year, that hold a quad of 4 boxes on them. I put 20. What do I put? 20 boxes on those, which is a good size for my tractor to maneuver. So I want to build a few more of those. Maybe another, I don't know, 5 or 6 or whatever.
I've got to run in the other room. I'll be
All
right back. So I'll let you MC your own show.
I'll converse with the chat. I've got the chat on my big screen here, so I'm watching you. So DC pre-World War I era grandfather clock, it doesn't work. Yeah, they do need a little maintenance and lubrication and stuff, especially a really old one like that. That's well over 100 years old. I do have a grandfather clock that a neighbor built, and I've moved it a few times and it's sustained a little bit of damage. I really should get it in here, fix it up, make it work again. I do relish the idea of building my own grandfather clock out of white oak. I just love white oak. I absolutely love white oak. Let me show you this thing here. It is a clock made of white oak, but not a grandfather clock. It's a good size though. And so here's the full shot of it. Right? And that art tile, that's a really neat thing. That was made place right outside of Detroit, just on the west side. I guess there's not much on the east side of Detroit but a river, but that's made there. And it's got a movement in there. It's not, I don't have it turned on right now. So that's white oak. That's all pretty much all handmade. There's mortise and tenon joinery all the way up here. 6 of those. So I was doing some repair because it fell off the bench at one point and damaged the top. So I'm repairing that. So
that's pretty cool.
So
like that.
Yeah. That was one of my first projects that I built.
Dragonfly, you need to make one with a honeybee on it now.
Yeah, it was before I was a beekeeper. I was saying, Bob, that tile, that's an actual art tile. They're all handmade in a shop west of Detroit.
The Queen Killer 3000 clock.
So I knew I wanted that tile, and I actually bought a few of them. And a buddy happened to be going down on a bit of an adventure trip down to southern Ontario. He was coming back through Detroit, and I said, "Hey, can you pick these tiles up?" And so sure enough, he did. You'll see this on the vlog, Bill. This is, I could show you that. Let me get that out here.
Travis is on here, by the way.
Travis on?
Travis is in the chat. Yeah, I just posted up a comment. He says, "Put your swarm trap 100 yards away. They will find it."
100 yards away. Oh, okay. Well,
hell, you could put one on each corner of your property.
Well, that would be 100 yards either way. I'm thinking more of the out yards. But anyway, so this Travis built me a bunch of stuff, and boy, am I thankful. Like, what a great guy. So let me show you this.
So first of all, let's explain what the problem was.
I'll show you the old, kind of the old stuff here. You've maybe seen me use these in the apiary. This is the old lift arm, right? That goes into the handle. We lift the boxes, and they're troublesome. Sometimes they don't fall down properly, so the geometry is not quite right there. This whole idea is to space it from the box, and that's a problem because that digs into the box. It doesn't release. This whole arm is very thin and it tends to bend. These knobs are not a good idea because they don't hold. Hey, thanks. They
You're
don't
welcome.
hold the thing on the arm, and they slip around. So, they'll go like this, and then your boxes fall out. So I was complaining last fall on my channel, and Travis got a hold of me and said, "Hey, let's see if we can fix some of that stuff." And boy, did he. Well, I haven't used it yet, but I'm pretty sure it's going to work great. All right. So essentially, Travis built these arms, and so he's got 3 set screws here. They're bolts. I've just got one of them tight right now, so I can tighten those right down, and there's no way it's going to slip. He made that out of a tube, a steel tube, instead of just one piece of metal. That, you know, I gotta hand the manufacturer some credit. All of this arm material is all made of stainless steel. So I mean, he did try, right? I always say that this lifter is well built. It's just in some respects I don't think very well designed. So then what I did was, you've seen Ian uses Easy Loader a lot. So I asked Ian, send me some pictures of that lift arm hand grabber kind of thing. And so he did, sent those to Travis, and he sort of reproduced that. And so this arm, this lift flapper thing, it it won't stay up because it doesn't go over center. There's no way for it to stay. It'll always fall into the handle, and uh, doesn't have that piece in here. It's made just right to fit the box. It's nicely angled here to not,
So if
bang
you're
it.
not perfectly lined up, it'll bump it into
Yeah.
a spot probably.
Yeah, just just go right in there. And I get what the manufacturer was trying to get away with here, is the way he manages his equipment. He wanted something that was very narrow. So that's what he achieved. He got something that didn't protrude past the box a long ways. And that's fine, because that's what he wants. I don't manage my boxes that way. So having this a little thicker is not a problem. And it's far stronger to have this piece fit right on that.
Because
And
it's extra support.
yeah, because it ends up sitting on this tubular steel arm, right? I'm just trying to look at some of the comments here. Does the version number go up for the Backsaver 6? It's 6100 actually, so I don't know, 6100.021 maybe. And then so Travis was watching my video, and he said, he said, you pick up those boxes. When you pick up a couple of boxes, you lift them up and then you tip it back to wheel it around, and the boxes go bam back against the carriage. And that's because this bar here, where the arms sits ahead of the carriage plane, right? So it's going to flop back against that. And so he made this, and I just drilled a couple of holes there, mounted this. So this has got a piece here, and again, it's got a bend in it so that it'll collect the box if it's not quite perfectly lined up. And then on this side, once you get into the box, it slides in there. You can, yeah, it's a Swiss Army knife now, yeah. And then you hit this toggle clamp, and that brings that in against the side of the box. So the box is, I don't have it putting a lot of pressure on the box. That's not the point. It's just to keep it from wobbling around this way. And then the box sits against here instead of going whack against the carriage of the thing. Yeah, so that's going to work great. There's one more thing. This was a little bit of a collaborative effort. I wasn't sure exactly how to do this because of the way this thing is made. When it's sitting like this, the bottom is sitting on the ground, and you can't push it forward like that because you're sitting on soft ground. I'm sliding it on cement now, right? So if it's on the ground, you can't move it ahead. So if you want to move it forward, you need to tip it back and then move it forward on the wheels. And I say all that because Travis said, let's make you a set of forks. So he did. He made this nice, there's 2 of these, one for each side, set of forks. But I said, I think what we need to do is tilt the forks down so that when I I tip the machine back to move it forward, then they're more level.
Level.
So that's what we did. So this fork will sit on the machine. Like if this is level, that's the way the fork will sit. Now it doesn't sit quite like that. You know, it sits more like that. So again, it's a bit of a prototype. I'll have to use it, and the forks are actually to lift those two-way pallets. So the idea and how that will change things for me is when I move bees to and from my out yards, typically they're singles. They might be doubles, but that's okay. I still work with doubles. Then I might not have to take my tractor. I can just put my lifter on the truck or trailer. I can put the bees on the trailer, then just lift them off the trailer, move them around the yard, place them where I want with the lifter. And also it allows me to move these pallets in the yard without employing a tractor, because I can't really move them with the bees in them. Even if I want to move a couple feet, I need the tractor. So that turns this into the tractor. It's a lot more maneuverable in the bee yard, and you know, just more convenient. So
well, it allows you to also, and that's what you're talking about. Like when you go to move them to the out yard, now you can just scoop the whole pallet, lift the pallet up, drop it on the trailer, and you don't have to use the tractor to keep moving back and forth and all over the place. So
no, I don't think this is going to remove the need to take the tractor for honey pole, because I need to put more weight. Like when I get a two-way pallet right full of honey, it's just a bit, I don't know. You know, I'm going to try, but I'm not expecting it to be the solution for that. So probably end up taking the tractor. Yeah, Norman and Doug, they say I should motorize the wheels. I'm not a big fan of motorizing things in electric because, you know, batteries go dead, things go wrong, switches wear out, and I can push the thing around just fine. If I wear out, I just sit down and have a drink of water, wait for a bit, then I'm back to work. So thanks, Travis.
all right. So Justin Soren says he has forks for his lifter as well and can move two-way pallets and three-way six-frame nukes.
Yep. That's what I'm planning to do. I'm just catching up on some of the chat here. So yeah, so I'm really stoked about trying this out. I tested it here in the shop. It picks up and sets down the boxes just beautifully. It doesn't like with the other lift arms. There's no way I could pick up and set down an empty box reliably because it's too light, and the arms, the factory arms, put too much drag on the boxes. They're not precision enough. There's just too much encumbrance there. With these, it's easy because there's nothing riding on the box. These arms are wider than the box, and then these just slip right down into the handles. It's a thing of beauty. I love it. Can't wait for summer.
Brought me back. Sorry, everybody in the audience. Well, you know, when you're looking at somebody face to face and talking to them, it's easier because when you're solo, you're just talking to the camera still, right? It's like being solo, unless I say something.
I'm not very good at that.
Ian's in the chat.
So now I don't have to publish a vlog tomorrow because everybody knows.
Still watch the vlog.
So don't comment in the vlog. Don't send me a nasty comment saying, "Hey, I already saw all this." Yeah, you did.
Norman said any possibility of having it manufactured in China so we could and to reduce cost.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of it is already made in China, all the wheels and everything, the electronic.
I see Ian's was working on his tractor still. Ian is still working on the tractor.
Hey, boss, how are you doing? Yeah, what are you doing on a stormy day? It actually looks like it's really improved out there. It's a little breezy, but there's no more blowing snow.
Said he put the last rod bearing in, and his chores will be to prime the engine with oil and fine timing, then make smoke.
Nice.
So,
Randy, you're going to have to talk to Travis about that. I was a little nervous that me showing this stuff might overwhelm Travis with requests.
if you want to get it picked up, then dump your bees on the ground.
Dump your bees on the ground. If you want to get it picked up, then dump your bees on the ground.
Let me see. It's but yeah, I mean, that's a good thing. And you know, those attachments, even though it's a prototype, I mean, they look like I mean, the only things like my question is, and I haven't ever used a lifter. I don't have a lifter, but when you got the box, if they're sitting, if the little flaps are sitting flat all the time, do you have to lift it all the way up to the top and then bring it down so it drags this way?
No, what happens is you go into it with the lift arms. You go into it with the machine tipped back a bit, and you slide in like this. So
and
as
then
you
it pushes
slide
them.
in, then they'll, instead of flipping up, then at that point they're actually flipping back as you slide in, and then you slip it down like this, and they fall in.
Randy Klangen's asking how to get in touch with Travis.
So
right here in the chat, brother.
Travis had said that's what he said. He said if you want to pick it up and dump your bees on the ground, then get it made in China.
Yeah,
that's what you wanted. That's about right.
where the pegs bend down.
You know, there are a lot of really nice things about this lifter. I do complain about it a lot. I complain about those tires because I don't know what size of hub the guy's got. It's a plastic hub. It's a really terrible design in my opinion. But there are a lot of good things about it. It's so strong. This lifter will lift. The motor and the battery and everything is sized very well, and it will lift. It will lift as much as Ian's Easy Loader will lift. I'll guarantee it. Now that's the machine. If you lifted that much weight with this machine, you wouldn't be able to control it. So that's your limiting factor. And you know, I'm tall and I'm pretty broad fella. So I can probably control it as well as anybody could, and I struggle sometimes. It's not a non-issue to use, but it does the heavy lifting, literally.
Well, if anybody's ever seen how tall I am in the chat, Brad's taller than I am.
I'm taller than Bob. Yeah.
So,
yeah,
a couple inches, at least.
6'4".
Yep, couple inches, 2 inches. So. It's we are strapping young lads.
Yeah. I'm getting old though. I'm getting
strapping old lads.
Strapping old man. So yeah, I don't know, Randy, how you're gonna get a hold of Travis, but you know, he's the man.
Well,
sorry,
hopefully
Travis.
everybody's a member of the Facebook group, the No Life Beekeeping Facebook group. You could message each other
there. Yeah, yeah.
Let me see. Yep.
Yeah, it is, and you know the frame. You look at the frame of the thing. I'll bring the camera down here a bit.
Doug says his latest model with the hydraulics is more controllable.
It's a totally different deal, though. It's more like a wheelbarrow than a hand truck. So you look at how it's built on the bottom. It's very strong. It's all galvanized. So it's very rigid. Here's one of the big design flaws that I first fixed is there was no stop on the top here, and that's
You
that's
can
the
just
upper
run it all the
wheel.
way out.
The upper wheel is right here. So if you're not careful, you could run that upper wheel clear out of the track, and the whole carriage would flop down. And that happened to me. So I drilled a hole and put these bolts in up there, and it's not coming through because I put a grade 8 bolt in that. The geometry is good. I always felt like the handles were sufficiently high because don't forget, I'm 6'4", and so that's, almost almost armpit height kind of thing. If you're not a very big person, you might be hanging from it like a ape hanger on a motorcycle. You can see that toggle clamp better here. These are a neat thing, but that
And you can adjust that
oh
to
yeah,
how you want it. Just
so
screw
I
it in.
can adjust that to go out farther. If I wanted pressure on the box, I can adjust it to go in closer here. So yeah, that's going to be really cool to use. Really nice. Yeah, so it's a heavy thing. If I need to load it in the truck or something, it's not light. Sometimes I'll actually lay it down and lift it with my tractor forks, put it on the trailer because it's heavy. It takes some effort.
Well, you want it to be heavy, right? You don't want it tipping over and stuff. You want it
Yeah, you need it to be strong, right? And even though it looks, it's tall and it's not very wide, and it's certainly not very deep from front to back. When you get boxes on here, it'll sit there. It'll sit there without tipping over. You can't be on real uneven ground, but you can lift those up and it'll sit there without falling over on you. You have to lift things a bit to get the weight to come back on the wheels, especially when you're moving around. Once you lift it,
you're moving that center of gravity, right, of the load.
Yeah, you can tell when I'm working with this thing all day. At the beginning of my day, I'm not lifting the boxes very high. At the farther on and at the end of the day, I'm lifting the boxes a lot higher because
so you're not having to tip it back as far.
Well, it's easier when you're in the yard. It's easier to carry weight than it is to push down and try to move around the yard, right? If the box is low, you have to push down with mobile. If you lift the box high, then you carry it with the mobile, and it's much easier to move around. So
you just need some straight arm attachments to come off of those handles. So all you have to do is push straight down, right? Or like me, I would just hang on them until the boxes flip back.
Well, you just pull the button and lift it up. It's not a problem. All it is time, right?
Right.
It just takes you an extra 5 seconds to lift that box up.
I'm excited to see those because it looks like Travis did a great job on building that, and building the attachments, I'll call it.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, you should just make a bunch of those as a kit and sell attachment kits.
Well, not very many people own this model.
Oh yeah, so the dimensions.
He hasn't built it in quite a few years. The one that this style, the hand truck style, is much different now. I think Joey has. Is Joey's? I know he has the hand.
Joey has the same one as Charlie, I think.
No, it's this style. It's the hand truck style, not the wheelbarrow style. But I don't think it's this model. I think it's this. It's a little bit smaller. It's not as tall.
Right.
And not as heavy. It's built out of aluminum. This is galvanized steel. This one goes back quite a ways. But so, like I say, it's it's well built. And my only, if I can say, complaint is just to we're getting lunch. Where's mine?
Yeah, she delivered me some lunch, some chicken nuggets, French fries.
My only complaint about what could be better is not that it's not built well. It's just a few design changes is what
Right.
I think it could use. Those wheels, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the wheels yet, but I'll figure that out. Yeah, I have no idea.
Justin says he likes the original one like you have, Brad.
Do you have that one, Justin? I think you said you did. Yeah, I like it. It looking at how Charlie and James and everyone who uses the other style, it looks like it works really well. And like Doug said, it's more controllable because of the wheelbase, I think, on it. But it wouldn't suit me as good. I would have to make a lot of changes in my apiary layout to be able, because even this, when you have a beehive that you want to pick up a box, you need to have a lot of distance between that beehive and whatever, because my one out yard here, it's got a page wire fence on the one side, and I have to make sure I don't put my hives too close to that fence, or there's no way I can use this machine to lift my honey boxes off. I have to be careful of that. And I would say it's a good 6 feet. I think I was talking to Charlie about that, and I think he said that the style that he bought, he's looking at a good 10 feet of.
Charlie also has all his beehives in one row too, so he doesn't have any obstructions behind it. Like I couldn't use that at my apiary because of the way I have my rows set up.
Right,
I would have to rearrange everything.
Well, Charlie's got that big shed there too, and that's what he was saying, that he's got about 10 feet there, and he wouldn't want any less space there. I had a lot of trouble this fall at the out yard that I put that fence up, that electric fence up. I had a lot of trouble pulling the honey because the fence was too close to the hives. I had to sort of modify the fence and pull some of the stakes out, and it was a real problem.
You almost powered your flux capacitor when you were using it?
I turned the flux capacitor off, thankfully.
Justin's up near you? Did I meet Justin in Manitoba?
I can't remember, Justin. Where are you? Right in the B1 being more compact. Well, yeah, Todd, you can buy wheels that are foam filled. I don't have trouble with these tires leaking for some reason. It's weird because they're just cheap Chinese garbagey tires. They have tubes in them, so that's why.
Justin's in Alberta.
But the tire itself, it spends a lot of time outside. So the tire itself has major cracks in it. And you can buy foam filled tires. They're far more expensive. And it depends on what you can get in that size. But I don't have trouble keeping them inflated. Foam filled tires are also not as flexible as pneumatic tires. So there's just different things to take into account. And yeah, foam filled tires are nice. Never get a flat sort of thing.
Well, the wood shop turned into the mechanic shop.
What's that?
The wood shop live turned into the mechanic shop live.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to see around the wood shop? Like, what do you guys want to see? What do you want to talk about? Yeah, Bob's been here. He was right there where that lifter's sitting. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm gonna get the saws all cranked up here pretty soon. Start cutting lumber. Start cutting up lumber, making parts. Always have an inventory of leftover parts, so I have to inventory what I have and then decide what I need to make. So,
well, it's always a lot. I mean, you don't have as much woodwork for this winter as you did last winter?
Not even close. No.
Right. So if you're in the Lebo area and need some two-way pallets made with Brad Hogg's design, hit him up.
You want some two-way pallets? Give me a call.
Or three-way nuke pallet.
Three-way pallets, covers, whatever you want. I'm going to get a beverage. I'm not gone. I'm just.
He's not gone. And I'm just eating chicken nuggets and french fries that the wife provided me. And enjoying chat with the bee friends here. Let's see. Did I miss anything in the chats here? That was quick. Yeah. I didn't think you could grab the bottle of Kraken that quick.
Well, I didn't get Kraken this time.
It's right there. It's got the bubbly.
This is Cherry Coke Zero. Sugar-free cherry Coke. That is really yummy stuff.
I have not seen that can here.
I don't see it all the time here either. I have to when I see it in the store, I need to stock up.
Doug says he needs to get pallets ready for the styrofoam supers.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just like adding a 2x4 strip to the side is what will make that work, I think, isn't it, Doug?
A little bit wider, right? Boxes.
I really hope I can get some of those for this summer to try out.
Alex says
Alex. Yeah. Alex is just I don't know, 30 miles west of me or so. So he's getting his weather.
Oh, he's your next door neighbor.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Literally.
Alex helped me out last summer. He threw a few nukes my way, which was really nice. I remember I was just thinking about that the other day, Alex, going over to coffee shop, and we sat and had coffee for quite a while. It was really nice to get to know him.
Let's see. A wee bit breezy, he says.
A wee bit.
Oh.
Well, I'll root for you on that lottery then. I could use that order.
Let's see.
The center strip could be an issue. So if I took the U-clip off the center, did something else there, you could probably just drive a screw in lieu of a U-clip. Will it not sit on the 2-inch center shim? Okay, I know it won't. You know, the shim is not as big as the box, but won't it sit there just fine? And then
if it's like the license boxes are like 2 inches thick.
I think he said they're what, 1.25 inches, 1.5
inches. When he's allowed back in Canada.
Allowed back in Canada.
Well, from what I gather, if you've ever had a DUI, you can't go to Canada.
I think that's the case. Yeah, 3-inch. So it's 2-inch already. So it's really only.
So they're 3 inches thick?
Well, the two boxes, because I think they're 1.5 inches piece, if I'm not mistaken. So it's really only, 5/8 of an inch bigger on all sides. Since they sit, you can't put them over center, then that's going to put, 10/8, 1.25 inches more on the outside, which a 2x4 is 1.5 inches.
So you got an 8-year ban from Canada. Not a DUI though.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. So
I don't even want to know. I do want to know, but I don't want to know.
I don't know that we should go into that. Yeah, you never move them, so you don't use clips. I Yeah, I feel good that the clips are there, especially when I'm using machines and things to lift boxes and stuff. Sometimes I push kind of hard on that screw chamber. I could dislodge it pretty easily.
He says he doesn't move his colonies, right? So he
Yeah.
doesn't need.
Yeah.
That story's for another time, he says.
Yeah, I had a good
Let me
I
run
had a
this
good
back.
year bar any other situation, but the fact that it started out the way it started, and then the way it turned out, that was nothing short of a miracle, my friend. Nothing short of a miracle. You know, to turn 3 colonies into a 12,000-pound crop, um, I am really speechless as to what happened. The whole summer was kind of a dream. I was just in a fog because I didn't know what was going on and things were happening, and it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. I didn't get to do Queens last summer, so I'm very thankful for everybody. Thankful for everybody who, you know, sent bees, sent money, and sent positive thoughts. You know, thoughts and prayers. I'm very thankful for that. Encouraging words, because you know you can't let it get to you, but it's hard to lose over $50,000 with bees and not let it get to you. So I'm very thankful. Sure. I just hope the bees are healthy now. Well, they're not really. They didn't look great, but I hope I have more bees come out than 3 this year. Let's see.
Yeah, this is going to be a definite rebuilding year for me. So
I think I better go out to the apiary and see if the lids are still on after this wind. That's crazy.
do you have a problem with them blowing off?
No, no, I don't. I just always want to look. Putting them together though in the cold, the quilt boxes and it's you know, that configuration. Putting that together in the cold, the bees don't glue them together, so they just kind of sit there. I don't have bricks or anything on them. If a lid blows off, it's not the end of the world because it just exposes the shavings in the box.
Right.
So maybe it'll blow some shavings away. You know, it shouldn't cause too much of a. It's not like blowing the whole thing right off the beehive and the bees are sitting there
Well,
wondering what in the world happened.
I don't know if it's just, this is gonna. So a lot of people will strap their colonies and stuff like that, even around here. And we've had tropical storms and stuff like that blow through. I've never strapped a lid. Well, I won't say never. I've never went out there and made sure there was extra weight on the colony, and I've never had a lid just say. Now maybe a feed bucket when it gets light, maybe that'll slide or something.
Oh,
But
that'll blow away. Yeah,
I've never had a lid just blow off the migratory cover. So let me see. Alex says he thinks he had a pretty good summer in Manitoba, but they ain't out of the woods yet. March is the real test. Doug says, so windy here, the hive could blow away.
it could. Here's
But
another.
not if you clipped it. If you had clips, it wouldn't blow away.
Here's another. Yeah, bragging about no clips.
Yeah. With
Here's
your
another little
styrofoam
clock
hive
that I built.
blowing.
This is a little clock that I built. It's just solid wood, just made of 2 pieces of oak, and these are just kind of arts and crafts design elements, and it's just a clock.
It's 1 p.m.
A clock.
Man, it even is digital and says it's 1 p.m. even though it's wrong.
Well, it's not.
No, your Alexa in the
What?
background just said it's 1 p.m. and you were holding the clock up. I was like, wow, that's you got some technology in that.
I put my brand on that.
That's nice.
So anyway, so I have to get it out of there, and it seems rather stuck.
It seems
We'll work at that another day.
Cracked me up. Hanley says he's lost 2 lids in 10 years. Hey, Spanky.
Hey, Spanky, thanks for coming in.
There you go. A lot of help from friends and people you don't even know. That shows you what people think of you in your videos.
Oh, thanks, Ivan.
Well, a lot of these, these live streams kind of, a lot of times, like right now, there's only 30 people here. Now, granted, it's the middle of the day on a Thursday.
With no
notice.
notice.
On a Friday, sorry. With no notice, just going live. There's 30 people in here, right? But like on Tuesday night when we have 100 people and stuff, those people get to know your personality, right? And even though they're not on the screen when they ask questions, and we can catch them if they're not scrolling by too fast and answer them, and I think people appreciate that too. So it's they get to know you as a friend, basically.
I do like the interaction, and that's why I like the comments my videos so much, because otherwise I'm just standing there talking to a camera, uploading stuff. I can see the statistics. There's whatever, this many people have watched this video, et cetera, et cetera. Doesn't really connect you to living and breathing entities.
Well, I mean,
but
if you want to truth
that, and then live really help.
But the effect, look at the effect, right? So I didn't know you from anyone, really. And then you came on the chat. I hadn't even found your channel, right? But you were on the live stream. And then we struck up a friendship just through doing this, talking to each other.
Yeah.
And fast forward maybe a year later, Brad's like, hey, you want to come up to the B conference in February? And I stayed at your house. I ate your food.
Yeah.
I drank your soda. Yeah. And we just hung out. And typically, most people would be like, nah, I just know this guy from the internet. Am I going to let him in my house,
Yeah.
That type of deal.
Well, that's true. And,
of course, we did have a good 3 days at the hotel to feel each other out, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We spent quite a bit of time at the hotel.
And I got to sit at Ian Stepler's kitchen table and drink a cup of coffee. Not many people could say that. Maybe me and Corey Stevens and Brad.
That was pretty special because before that day, I'd never been in the house.
See? Look what the magic of Bob can do. But yeah, we had a nice conversation.
I call you guys my weird friends.
And I met Spanky at the B conference. I've met a lot of guys at B at B conferences. And if I had the money, if I had unlimited money, that's what I would do. I would be, hey Brad, I'll be in Manitoba. This one that they're having in Missouri. I'd be there.
Yeah, I'd love to come and rub shoulders with everybody that I know from here too, and make some new friends. And I hope people don't think I'm being standoffish because I don't show up at these things. It's just so expensive, and there's other logistics involved too. Planning to do any long distance travel in my part of the world in the winter.
Going to the grocery store is long distance travel for you.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah.
So, and you know what? You guys down south there have experienced my normal life, right? If I'm going to plan to go anywhere in the winter, now you know why, because it's
enter your PIN to unlock the device.
Far more likely to happen here than what happened to you guys.
Well, I mean, you live far enough away from things that you multitask when you're going somewhere. Okay, I'm going to Winnipeg and I'm going to get this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to stop by the store. I'm going to make a couple deliveries. And then I'm coming home.
Especially price of fuel, you know, it costs quite a bit just to go to town. You don't just want to go for just nothing.
Yeah, I mean, what Winnipeg's hour and a half, 2 hours for you?
No, it's an hour.
Hour.
An hour will get me right in the middle of the city.
Well, yeah. So I really like where you live.
Me too.
But you have to plan, right? You have to plan. It's not like you're gonna say, "Oh, I forgot the toilet paper at Walmart. Let me run back."
Yeah.
Be like, I better go pick some leaves.
You've seen my pantry.
Yeah.
My pantry is like half a grocery store. Here, I have 3 freezers full of food.
And if that fails, you just set it on the porch because it's cold enough.
Yeah. Because, you know, as you can imagine, I don't like running out of food.
Me neither. It's not fun. And I only live 2 minutes from the store here. So
yeah. We do have a store, like there's a store north of me that's closer than go all the way to town.
By the casino?
Yeah. We went for dinner at that casino. And so it's right across the street from there.
The funny part about that is with your location to have that casino out essentially in the middle of nowhere. There's just farmland casino.
It's a pretty cool place for being in the middle of a swamp, isn't it?
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
I liked it. We even won it a little bit.
It's a full-on, pretty awesome little casino.
My wife almost won enough to pay for the dinner.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Phil says he goes to Nobby. That's his only vacation.
Yeah, Alex knows. Good buffet.
We didn't get the buffet though. They didn't have a buffet.
Buffet. I don't know that they're having buffet. They stopped having buffet in 2020.
Oh, because of COVID.
All the stuff going on. So that's why it's table service now.
Of course.
I don't know if they're having the buffet anymore.
But Fred Dunn was the maitre d'.
Fred Dunn was the maitre d'. Yeah. Well, maybe Fred Dunn's brother or something.
His doppelganger.
Yeah, his doppelganger. That was pretty crazy.
He might watch this and be like, "What do you mean I was the maitre d'?"
Yeah. Well, Fred, come visit. There's a guy who works at the casino restaurant. Could pass
at least did.
He could probably pass off for Fred Dunn until he started to talk, and then you would know that's not Fred Dunn.
Yep, because he would say, "Well, the washroom is down there on the left," and you'd be like, "What? I got to take a piss. I don't have to take a shower."
Well, I mean, you know,
but I'm not resting either.
Fred's pretty knowledgeable and a pretty smart guy and everything.
He'd figured out.
You know, if just anybody started talking, it probably wouldn't sound as smart as Fred Dunn.
It took me just long enough that I was there to start saying washroom, and then I get back and I have to switch back to restroom or bathroom.
And now you don't know what it is.
And now it's just, I just use the wood, so I don't even.
And now it's just, I have to pee.
I gotta pee.
Okay, Forrest.
We went fishing. Oh my goodness!
Wow, got to pay for a vacation for 8 people. Wow, God bless you.
Yeah, Well, when I had 6 kids, our vacation was essentially. Well, I didn't have 6, but I had 4. But when we had 4 kids here, we were lucky to go an hour and a half away to go to Carowinds, or we would go up to the mountains, but only for the day, right? We'd go up there and do our thing. And then on the way home, they'd all be asleep in the car and we just drive back or to the beach. That's what I love about here. I would love to say that there was something grandiose and really exciting about where I live. There's not. But where I live is an hour and a half to the mountains an hour and a half to the beach, you know, I can get anywhere I want to be.
If you're here in the summer, I'd take you up to the beach. Another, I don't know, 20 minutes.
If you were here in the summer, I would take you into the AC because you would incinerate.
You'd have to. but another, I don't know what it is, 20 minutes up the road is a world-class beach. It's really incredible.
Well, when I was in Michigan, we went over to Lake Michigan to their beach. And it was the middle of the summer, and it felt like ice water still yet in there. My kids wouldn't even go in because they're like, it's too cold.
Yeah,
Great Wolf Lodge.
65-cent dollar. That makes it tough to travel south.
Hey, Morris, they also have a Great Wolf's Lodge in North Carolina. So I don't know which one you live closer to or which one might be less expensive to go to, but it's probably about the same. But the Poconos, I think, have a lot of stuff to do.
I brought coffee out and I never drank it.
Well, I went and got an energy drink. All that's coming to an end, though. Why? Because I can't afford it. It sucks right now.
The weather was so bad.
How bad was it?
My woodshop is a 15-foot walk from the house. And the weather was so bad that I brought a thermos full of coffee.
So you wouldn't have to walk back and forth.
I didn't want to go back. It was really bad.
I'm going to one-up you. Bring a Keurig out and plug it into the thing. Then you can have coffee on demand.
Yeah, under 2 inches of wood dust.
Hey, it's character building. That's what we're doing here.
A whole sealed cabinet with the positive air filtered.
Keep the dust out. You have to buy a laminar flow hood to put in your shop with positive pressure.
So, what you want to see? Anything else in the woodshop? I keep asking that.
You know, we've been going an hour and a half already.
Yeah, I see that. That's okay. I keep talking. I don't have to work. There's my good old 12-inch radial arm saw. I'm going to get that humming here pretty soon. I love that saw.
Let me see.
That just cuts up all my lumber.
Phil says we're just here for the chat.
Just here for the chat. Well,
just here for the chat.
I
got to start. My thing, and probably, I mean, there's enough daylight out when I'm done with this that I'm going to go out and start working in the shed. One reason is I've got a big box and I don't know if it's got honey bottles in it or if it's a big box of something else, right? So I need to look in it to see. Hopefully it's honey bottles because otherwise I'm going to be ordering some. And that's not fun.
Yeah.
Why don't you have any more 1-pounders? Because I don't have any more 1-pound bottles.
I go through about $5,000 worth of glass a year.
However, your principle is absolutely 100% correct. And I don't know if you caught us talking about it on the live stream.
Yeah,
when people first started coming here, 1-pounders, they were buying 1-pounders because all I sold was 1-pounders in pint mason jars, right? That was it. That's what I had.
Yeah.
So they bought 1 pound, 1 pound, 1 pound, 1 pound. Then all of a sudden, the next year or so, everybody went up to start buying pint jars. And then now they're buying more 3-pounders. I don't know that it's a higher percentage of the people are buying the 3-pound jars now than the 1-pounder jars. And because I live out here, if they drive way out here, they don't want to do that every week or every week and a half. I'll buy a 3-pounder, right? And then cut their travel time down, or 2 3-pounders. Or
Well, for me too, it's a cost savings. Go over here. And you're right. It doesn't matter to me. It does. I mean, costs always matter, but it doesn't matter to me as much what I'm paying for a jar because I don't pay for it. Say, well, who pays for it? Well, who do you think pays for it?
Customer pays for it.
No, Doug, I sold my jointer. I never used it, so I sold it. Customer pays for it. That's who, right?
Well,
Because I set up all my
eventually they
price-
pay for it.
Well, I know they pay for it because I've set up all my pricing so that I get a commodity price for my honey. I decide that I want this many dollars for my honey, like per pound. I want this many dollars per pound for my honey. And then all the other costs of the jars and the labels and the packing and the creaming and the driving down the road to get it to here and there and everything I can possibly think of is paid for by the customer because I take my commodity price for my honey and then everything else goes on top of that. So,
but you still have to front that money.
well, sure. Yeah, sure I do. But
Well, when you sell,
but my
like-
suppliers, that's where terms come in, right? My suppliers give me terms. I give my customers terms, so it just goes
Right.
down the road. So
yeah, I don't
only
get terms
front
from
it for the
suppliers.
first month, and then everything rotates after that.
I wish I had a credit account. No, I don't. If I had a credit account at a bee supply, I'd be screwed. They would be too.
Yeah.
I would get a bunch of product. But so like I sell everything for the same per pound cost, right?
Well,
I say that's not exactly
where
accurate.
that's where I think you should look at your prices because you sell it the same per pound, but you don't take into account your packing costs, your containers and your labels and your work.
Well, if I sell a 1 pound for $10 or a 3 pound for $30, it's still $10 a pound. But and that jar does cost, the 3 pound jar costs twice as much as the 1 pound jar.
Right.
But if they bought 3 1 pounders, it's the same amount of honey, hypothetically, but now I've bought half again as much in jars, right? So it would cost. So if it's 50 cents a jar for a 1 pound and $1 for a 3 pound, if they buy 3 1 pound jars, it costs me an extra 50 cents.
Right. So what you want to do is you want to talk them into the larger size. Here's an example. You go to the movies. Okay, the movies got this figured out. You go to the movies and you get your popcorn, and the popcorn pricing is the same as the soda pop pricing, right? You go in there and you look at the menu for the soda pop, and there's 4 sizes. There's small. Well, the vegans buy small, but small, medium, large, and jumbo or whatever, right? There's always one bigger than than large.
The family size.
So when you start talking about, small will be $4, large will be $6, or small, the medium will be $6 or $5, and large will be $6, and jumbo will be $6.50. Nobody buys large, right? They don't sell any larges because anybody that wants to buy a large soda pop buys the jumbo because it's only 50 cents. So they always get that 50 cents out of you. Every time they get that 50 cents out of you. So, but it works for the customer, it works for the business. What it does kind of works for me. I don't use this as the way I price it, but it just kind of happens to be that way. Every time you go up a size in my prices, you generally go down about 50 cents a pound. I'm converting kilogram prices to pound prices for the ease of understanding it. So it goes down about $1 a kg, about 50 cents a pound. So this is I'll just show you. I'm going to hold this up here, so you're going to have to take a quick look because I'm not going to hold it up here for very long. This is my big size.
2.5 gallons.
2.5 gallons. That's kind of the same pail I use to feed my bees. It's a new one though. I didn't feed my bees and then fill it with honey. And that's 15 kilograms, right? So that's 33 pounds of honey. And so it's same pricing. I know I'm getting X number of dollars for that honey, regardless.
How much does that sell for retail?
$165, I think.
Yep. It's about right. $300 for a 5-gallon pail.
So this one is a third of that size. Okay, that's 5 kilograms, 11 pounds. Okay, $60. So if you're doing the math,
that's 11 kilograms.
11 pounds, so 5 kilograms.
That's a gallon size.
It's approximately a gallon. I think it's a U.S. gallon. It says right there, 1 U.S. gallon.
Is that all creamed?
This one is a liquid packed, but I have that creamed as well. Generally, I put the pails in creamed, but there's a lot of people still want liquid packed. So then next, and this is a liquid pack, but it's granulated. I'll just warm it up before the customer gets it. And it's 3 kilograms, right?
6
So
pounds.
6.6 pounds.
Half gallon.
I don't know if it says on here.
A little over a half gallon.
Well,
maybe
it says it's 2.25 liters. So that is $40. Okay. So if you're doing the math on these, it goes up about $1 a kg every time you go down in size. This is my most popular SKU. This is my most popular product. So that's one. If you don't know what a kilogram of honey looks like, that's a kilogram of honey. It's 750 milliliters.
2.2 pounds.
2.2 pounds. And now my direct sale price on that is $15. Okay. The wholesale price is a little bit less than that. It's like, I don't know, 12.5 or something.
2.2 pounds. I would get probably $22 for US.
Yeah. Which is
but
like
yours is going on a lot of yours is going on shelves in stores as compared to mine is on my table on the front yard.
And that's the thing, that wholesale price, that's a case of 12. Right? But I know that wholesale price. Well, I don't know it offhand, but what I know about that wholesale price is I'm still getting exactly the same amount of money for the honey that I want. All of the honey here, regardless of what size container it's in,
$4 a pound.
I get exactly the same amount of money for the honey itself. So there's kind of there's a separator. Okay, there's after extracting and there's before extracting. So once the honey is extracted and strained and in the 5-gallon pail, everything from that point on is paid for by the customer, right? From that point on, I value that honey at X number of dollars per pound, and the customer pays everything else. So once it's in the 5-gallon pail, I get that many dollars per pound that I've decided to get because I value my product. I don't care what anybody thinks my product's worth. I'm going to value it, right? So before it hits that pail is all fixed. So those costs are called cost of goods sold. right? That's what it's called in business, cost of goods sold. That's what the customer pays. Before that point is fixed costs. So all of the
Cost of
fixed
production.
costs, fuel to run my truck, treatments for the bees, feed for the bees, equipment, everything. That's all fixed costs. So all that fixed cost then has to come out of the price that I decided that I want for the honey. So the base price for the honey pays for the fixed cost. The extra that the customer is paying for the jars and the labels and the packing and all that is the cost of goods sold. So because I've worked at it, took me a long time to work out all the math on that. Because I did that exercise, I can be confident that every pound of honey that I sell, and if somebody comes in and says they want a bargain, or if I decide that I want to give somebody a discount, which I almost never do, that I know what it's costing me to, I give honey to, sometimes people have a charity raffle or something, I'll give them some honey. I know what that's costing.
Right.
Right. So I encourage people to look at that. When I see somebody selling a 2-pound jar for twice as much money as a 1-pound jar, you need to try to get the customer into the 2-pound jar. Right. So it should be, 1.75 as much money. And then do a 3-pound jar, which is 2.5 times as much as the 1-pound jar. The 1-pound jar should be your most expensive jar, right? Because when you look at it, you don't want people buying the 1-pound jar. You want people buying the 2 and the 3-pound jar. You want them to get, it works for them too, because they get a good value, and you get to move more honey, and you get more money.
Right. And I mean, I would have to do some calculations, but I still think I'm probably like Sam sells his honey more than mine, but he always is sold out, right? He sells it because he doesn't produce that much honey.
Yeah.
I still have, I don't know, 15 gallons outside or 18 gallons outside. And that's just what's not bottled yet. The stuff that I've got bottled already is in different stages, whether it's creamed and that's not including what's in my creamer, guys. That's just I think I got probably, I don't know, I know it's more than 5 gallons, probably 10 gallons in the creamer. So that's one thing that I was looking to do is start doing some of those creamed honeys.
So that's the last size that I'll show you. It's about a pound, a little more than a pound, 500 grams. So it's half a kilogram. And I'll sell that direct for $10. Now, don't forget, I'll sell that direct to a customer for $10 or the farmer's market or in the driveway. This one's twice as big, and I sell it for $15. So guess what? I never sell these in the driveway.
Well,
nobody drives to my farm and buys it. 1 pound.
What's the difference in the cost of the jar? Is the jar twice as much as the other one?
No. Now, I have 2 prices for those products. One is a wholesale price, and one's my retail price. So the $10 is a retail price. The wholesale price, I can't remember. It's probably under $7. But that's a case of 12. And anybody who drives in my driveway and wants a case of 12, they get a wholesale price. It's not a problem. And I can do that because I know that my cost of goods sold is covered and the commodity price I want for my honey is calculated in there to be strong enough. When I get $10 for that jar, that means I'm getting extra money for that jar because it's a little jar that is, takes a lot more work to go and get the jars, fill the jars, handle the jars.
That
all
was
that kind of stuff.
that was
Not
the
only
other.
that, not only that, there's another point I want to make on that. That little jar undermines my larger sizes, because there's always a customer you're going to get who will always buy the cheapest thing you have, regardless of what it is. So if the cheapest thing I had was $15, they'd buy that.
Right.
But the cheapest thing I have is $10, so they'll buy that.
The other thing, now we know you do, you send yours to a packer that packs it and everything.
Yeah.
However, for like people like me and a lot of us at home that do our own, when you're doing like if I do a case of 12 3-pounders, right? That isn't as much work as doing, that's still 36 pounds, right? Or 36 1-pounders takes more time. You got more lids to screw on, more, it's more labor intensive for you. So the bigger size actually cuts down your work a bit as well. So
people sometimes contact me and they want those little things you see on the table at a wedding.
Yeah.
Right. Those are cash cow, but they're a lot of damn work. Right. And I won't do them. Well, usually for my regular customers, my customers who buy, my regular customers are usually buying pails. So they'll be buying either the $40 or the $60 pail. So once in a while, and I just had this a month ago, one of my regular customers.
What's the jar?
It's just my coffee mug.
Oh.
Oh no, empty cans. So yeah, my regular customer wanted some wedding favors, and I've done this to a few of my regular customers. I say, you know what? Decide what kind of jar you want. You go buy your jars, or I can buy jars for you. I'll go and buy jars, and I'll sell you the jars at cost, and I'll sell you the honey, and I'll give you a gated pail for a couple weeks, and you can fill those little stinking jars, because I sure don't want to do it. And it's going to cost her a pile more money for me to do it.
Your little speed filler, the little
Yeah,
scale one would probably work.
I got the Vivor one, so it's a piece of crap. It doesn't work.
I don't know who made mine, but it was before.
So Brian asked me a question. And I couldn't see the comments from over there. So if you have questions that you put up there, you'll have to ask me again or something.
Is one case your wholesale minimum?
One case is my wholesale minimum. For my regular customers, I'll do wholesale price for anything more than a case. You know, it doesn't happen very often, but some of my small stores, they'll order, 15 jars or 18 jars or so. That's fine. I'm not going to refuse them.
So it's got to be over 12.
Is one case your wholesale minimum? Is your wholesale price a flat percentage of retail? No, my wholesale price, everything starts with my wholesale price. So again, I take the price of the honey that I want. I decide how many dollars per pound I want for my honey. And then I take everything above that, like everything after the 5-gallon pail, my packing cost, my creaming cost, my jar cost, my label cost, all of the transportation involved in getting all that. I factor in the transportation for me to drive out, pick up the jars, and drive back. Like I factor in all of those costs, and all of that determines then my wholesale price, right? And the only prices I really sell for that aren't wholesale price or near wholesale price is that little $10 jar and the $15 jar in less than case lots. And my regular customers, if they're placing an order for multiples, and they do, I'll always tell them, a case of 12 will cost you this much. And so they can decide, because I don't mind that at all.
Ivan says you need to supply your customers all year so they don't go elsewhere. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a firm believer.
That's the thing. I think that's the thing. And that's always my worry, right? because I want to be their honey supplier. And that's why I don't want to take on too much as far as retail stores and whatnot, because retail stores expect you to keep the
Keep
shelf
it full.
right. And you can't say to a retail store, can you wait a month?
Yeah. I'm out until
Right.
July.
Yeah. So, there's all kinds of dynamics there. And I've been really fortunate. Um, and probably this year is the most fortunate I've been in that way, that the honey that I have will generally last until I harvest again. Sometimes I'm pulling honey a little bit early because I'm running out,
Right.
but usually I have a little bit of overlap. Uh, you know,
Take an empty box and start pulling individual frames and putting some more
yeah,
back in
yeah,
the box.
yeah, yeah. So, I just try to, and one year we'll have a lower harvest and the next year I'll have a higher harvest. So it just kind of evens out. Last year, like in 2023, I think I started packing the 2023 crop in September. And this year I started packing the 2024 crop in November, December. Got a little more overlap there. And I still have 23 crop here. I haven't sold it all, but I usually, when I run out of pails, then I'll feel like I'm running out of honey, but I could have a couple thousand pounds here. So it took us a while to commit to seasonal farmers market. Wanted to be able to have honey throughout the season. Yeah, yeah. It's tricky. It's tricky.
I'm just afraid to raise my prices so that it will last all year. Well, see, you're doing just the opposite. Raising the prices actually stretches out.
Yeah. So here's my, see, I'm giving away all my secrets, and I hope my customers don't get mad at me if they hear this.
I'm sure they all watch your YouTube channel.
Yeah. So here's a couple of things. I have a friend who is a BA kind of guy. Like, he's a numbers guy. He really knows how to figure out, and I've consulted him a lot on financial things as far as how I should do things in my business. He said something to me very early on in my beekeeping career. He said, if you sell all of your honey before you harvest again, your price is too low, right? So you can moderate how fast your honey sells with your price. And the second thing that I want to say is, sounds really mean and it sounds nasty, but I'll qualify it. And what it is raise your price until some people won't buy it. Okay. Now, not everybody is going for the same customer. I chose early on to not be the bargain guy, right? Because and the biggest reason was, if somebody is shopping on price, they will drop you like a hot potato for a lower price. Okay. There is zero loyalty in price. Absolutely zero loyalty in price. So I kind of ignored price. I actually tried to be the more expensive honey in the neighborhood. Like, when I go into the store and they're selling honey, my honey cheaper than somebody else's honey, I don't like that. I want to be the more expensive honey, because that helps me select my customer. I want to select that customer is buying my product because they want to buy my product, not because it's, they're, oh, look, that's the cheapest one. That's not my customer. I remember taking a marketing workshop a few years ago. One of the principles they kind of drilled into our heads was, if you market to everybody, you market to nobody, right? So if you try to just collect all of the customers, then you don't market to anybody. So you can choose who your customer is, and one of those ways to choose is your price. When my honey sits on the store shelf, what do I have? I have, how pretty is my label? How nice does the honey look? And what's the price? That's what I have to talk about my honey. And an elevated price tells the customer that I'm confident in the product quality and the product uniqueness, that I can fetch that price, right? That speaks customer. Somebody comes in the driveway, you know, they've got my radiant personality to draw them in. That was supposed to laugh. I can take them for a bee yard tour if it's summer. You know, I can take them into the bee barn and show them where the bees are in the winter. So, you know, there's a lot of different things, but on a store shelf, I don't have very much to attract the customer. So I need to speak to them with the price.
Now, we didn't go into any grocery stores per se when I was up there, but I would have been curious, and maybe next time you're in the store, you can take some photos, because I have shared some with you from when I've gone into stores here. And one thing I really dislike, and maybe we as beekeepers are lazy on this aspect, or we just haven't put that much into it. Your jars for your honey are different than any jars for honey that I've seen here.
And it's a pretty standard jar for around here. The jar is actually a pretty, bland, everyday jar for around. Everybody uses that jar.
And everybody here uses that a skep jar, or that the round cylindrical one, right? They all look the same. The only difference is the label. Even the big companies. I'm like, that doesn't set you aside. I mean, you've got some companies like Nate's that has like a fluorescent orange label on it to pop, like mine is yellow, to pop attention to it.
That used to bother me a little bit. It used to concern me a bit, but it doesn't concern me at all now, because I haven't found that to be a problem.
Now, in my driveway, it's not a problem. On the shelf, I could see where it might be, I don't care what honey it is, just grab one, and it becomes difficult to.
I'm going to go grab something else here, but I'm not far away. I'm just over here.
Let's see if I got a photo. I did show this the other night on the stream, but to give you an example, let me pull this photo up here and see if I can present and do all that.
Well, before you do, I have one more product. This is also a 1 pound, 500 gram, 1 pound-ish container that I recently got. So that's the only deviation from that kind of bland cylinder jar that I use. And I had to go to the freezer, and it's really cold in my hands to handle it, because once I fill those, I freeze them so they don't granulate, because it's a plastic squeeze bottle, and you can do the math.
Well, so like in Florida, when I was down there, they had these. I had not seen these as honey containers. But I thought that was something to me that set a difference, right? Let me see if I can go the right way and not show something that. All right, so that's kind of like a Capri Sun, right? But then you get to this, it's the same that you could buy from Better Bee or anywhere. There's nothing. Whoop, wrong way. Sorry. And then you get this one, right? Which is the same. It's the same. Everybody uses the same. There's nothing that sets that out on a shelf from any other brand in the store.
Except the price.
The price, the price. I mean, that's kind of cheap.
And and guaranteed, and I'm a consumer too, and I've done it, I will go look at products and I will decide, am I here to get the cheapest product, or do I want to find out why this one is the most expensive? Sometimes I'll do that.
Yeah.
So if you can back it up in the container, then people will forget that it's a little more money, because they'll say, man, is that ever good? they'll go back to the store and they'll buy your product again because they get value from, a little bit higher price once they try it. So, and I'm sure there's a subliminal message there that when they open that jar of that expensive honey, they're already convinced that it's better honey. You know what I mean?
Brian noticed the same thing I did. It says Florida local. It's a local Florida company, but they got New Zealand Manuka honey. This is lemon infused, which I guess Florida has different laws, right? But yeah, so that's some things that I noticed, and I always look at the honey rack just to see what they've got, why it looks different and stuff like that, and what's good about it. But prime example, there's a guy that I see on
exactly, Brian.
I see it on Facebook all the time, and there's a guy in Nebraska that's selling sourwood honey and Tupelo honey, and it's like, and I think he had orange blossom honey. So my thing was, it's not really local to that area. It's a local company, right? So that to me carries some weight, right? But at the same time, he did put its New Zealand honey on this one, right? So at least he's disseminating that, look, this is not Florida honey. This is New Zealand honey, but you can buy it from a Florida company. So,
yeah.
And, hypothetically, if I had a little shop that was a processing facility here, I was ordering in honey from wherever and packaging it and employing local people to work there would probably be a lot of people that would still buy it because, hey, Susie packed that bottle, right? Or,
yep.
I would almost, if it wasn't like, I got Doug here, hold on. I would almost even go ahead and kind of like, you remember the old Inspector 12 thing with Fruit of the Loom? Where is the thing? But how cool would it be if your bottles, and you owned a place like that did a lot of packaging that said packaged by Susie or bottled by Susie.
See that number there?
243.
This is a lot code for the packer. That number there.
Yep.
That tells me the year and the yard where this honey was produced. So most of the time I don't pay attention. Well, most of the time the customer won't pay attention to that. But if I'm talking to a customer directly, I can talk to them about that. I can say, so this yard last year, this yard had yada, 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 and I can talk about that. And
right.
When you get that particular customer and they really are interested in that much of a deep connection with that honey, I can talk about that. I can say, this is a 24 honey. It was produced in this such and such a yard. The floral was this such and such a kind of thing. And I had a different yard this year and it had a little different flora. So the flavor is a little more bold. This one's a very mild, sweet flavor. I can talk about all, this was a different year, same yard, different year. So it was drier. And so that yielded a different kind of honey.
Create the story.
Because it's not a monofloral honey, and I don't want to knock anybody, particularly my friend Doug. But when you're producing a monofloral honey, then it's mostly the same every year and every yard. But boy, mine is not. It really is not. So that's why I started to control the year and the yard code so that I could have that conversation with that customer. So they'll bring me they'll look at a honey and they'll say, oh, I want this, or they'll say, well, what's the number on it? Well, let's see if we can find you a jar of that honey if you really like it. Or I'll just say, sorry, that stuff's all gone, but this stuff is just good. It's just not quite the same.
Would John say it's so about
Doug.
the wrapper? Put the honey in a honey jar.
Sorry, Doug.
Wait, I got bad delay here again, but I'm going to give you our take on it. market honey through stores and privately in different places, but we will discount as our volume goes up.
Yeah.
And the reason being, we can't market all the honey that we produce. I would rather give a slight discount, increase the volume, so I'm not getting bulk price $2 a pound.
Yeah, that's a different dynamic. I'm in a position where, like I was saying, all of my honey sells, right? When I come to next harvest, I'm either sold out of my honey or I'm within 3 to 4 months of selling out of my honey. So that's a different dynamic. I don't have to, I really kind of wish that I could produce more so I could go out and do more sales calls and get more stores and, stuff like that. I was just talking to somebody today about this and I said, I not only don't do that, I can't because I can't oversell, right? I have to make sure I can.
You gotta have a buffer.
I got to produce for the customers I have. But yeah, if you're producing, once you get above 10 or 20,000 pounds, you're not going to be able to sell that directly. Sorry, Doug. I'm sorry you got such a
He
delay.
unsteplered us. He waved and disappeared.
I don't know. You mentioned that it's only on my streams, and I don't know why that would be because it's all the same as everybody else. But regardless, I appreciate you dropping in. That's a really good point. Once you start producing, basically producing more than you can sell, by the roadside, then you have to find other avenues to sell that. And generally it's barrels at a reduced price. But I would bet that when you factor in filling that barrel and transporting that and everything, your cost of goods sold are way less than me selling a pound of honey to somebody, right, per pound. So you can take that lower price. That's kind of the name of the game. The difference is in the barrel, you're asking them what price the honey is worth.
Right.
And I have the luxury. Did I disappear?
You froze for like a second.
So I was saying in the barrel, when you're taking that, generally you're asking the buyer what the honey is worth. And in my situation, I have the luxury of deciding myself what the honey is worth. And I can price it too high and people won't buy it. So I have to walk that line, right?
But if you get it dialed in where, like you're right now, like you said, you have a few months of overlap there. If it was a little bit cheaper, you would probably run out.
Perhaps. Yeah.
So
even if I didn't, and I put it cheaper, and say I lowered it by $1, there's $12,000 out of my pocket.
Right.
In a year. Right. Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to cut my own throat that way? It's still a going price. My honey is not, I'm not even the most expensive honey in the store, which I don't like, but that's the way it is. So I'm not, it's not like I'm priced out of the universe. I'm not.
Right.
I'm very, very
competitive.
Well, I was going to say competitive. I'm not competing with anybody, but I'm on par with people. I am.
Right.
My prices are strong, but they're not higher than everybody. There's a lot of people selling for the same price I'm selling. And there's a lot of people selling for cheap. There's always the cheap honey, right? You can get cheap honey, and God bless you, go buy the cheap honey. Have I raised my prices in the last couple of years? Do I plan on raising them in the future? There's a story there when COVID came by, and the world went out of equilibrium. Input costs started going up, and I try not to be reactionary to things, but that was a big mistake. So what happened was I didn't raise my prices at that point. I should have, but that meant that my business didn't make any money for almost 3 years. I started raising my prices again. I started making money again. So that's a big regret. If anybody asks me what's your biggest regret in your business, It's not raising my prices at that point because my business suffered for 3 years because of it. I've raised my prices each year for the last 2. I've decided not to raise my prices this year. And my price increases usually have, just because of outside forces, they usually end up taking effect in February or March. So this year I think I can keep things stable, price wise. So that's kind of the long answer to that question.
Well, we've been going 2 hours and 10 minutes, and I'm going to have to take a bio break in a second. So,
well, I might do enough of this stuff. I might have to as well. I don't know. I'm not doing anything else, so you guys have to decide when you want to go.
Yeah, you have to understand your
right.
customer base, your product, and the volume
right.
produced.
Yeah, exactly right. Because not everybody, has the same business model. Not everybody has the same business goals.
Right.
A lot of people, I've talked to a lot of people who run their business, and without being unkind, I'll say like a charity, it's kind of like they're allergic to making money. They don't want to make money. So they'll try to figure out the lowest possible price they can charge for their product. A lot of times they even will put up with losing money. People run their business any way they want. I have no input on that. But my model is I'm trying to make a living here and I'm not doing it. My business is profitable, but it's not much more than that. I'll be honest. I've learned that this is a tough business to make money at my size of operation. To start making money, you need to hire 1 or 2 people and probably triple the size of colonies and production that I have. One of the biggest problems that affects my bottom line and not making much money is my production is low. A good year for me is 120 pounds of honey. A good year for Doug is 300. So, but the good thing is a bad year for me is 100. So it's not that much lower. A bad year for Doug is 80.
A good year for me is 50.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is again, because Ian and Doug and a lot of the guys will get on the big canola flows. Usually those pay off and you get a good yield on those. But I really feel for Doug. He had a really bad year, and then the canola didn't come through for him. And because it's kind of like, it's all the eggs in one basket kind of thing. That didn't come through, so his yield went way down. I've kept bees through wet years and droughts. I remember one year, actually, I think it was 2 years, we had a drought. It was about 4 months, 4 or 5 months. It never rained. Nothing grew. It was awful. And I still got a nice harvest. I still got 100 or 110 pounds of honey off my colonies. It was a little different honey though. It turns red when the weather gets dry. So whatever flowers that is.
Is Charlie even going live tonight? Because I
know.
saw earlier that I think Bill's channel is scheduled to go live tonight. They were just saying they expected me to hop. We expect us to hop on Charlie's after we're done because it'll be time for his to start.
I'll just hand it off. Yeah, exactly, Doug. If Doug waited to extract like I do, he'd get zero honey because it'd be solid in the comb. Whereas I don't extract until early September. The canola guys, they're in it late July usually. I'm not. And if I see any granulation, I don't see it until the 3rd week in September, and it's usually not much at all. And I'm kind of okay with that because that means the canola honey doesn't end up in my jar. It's in the comb still.
Robert popped in the back, but he said he wants to sit back there and ask us something afterwards. Talk to us about something. So,
Okay. So actually running the business, doing the marketing and running the business is one of the most interesting parts to me because it's the part that I know the least about. Right. Hey, thanks, Mike. I appreciate you kicking in like that. I really appreciate it. So I was going to cite a quotation by Pablo Picasso, of all people. Apparently, he said, "I'm always doing things I don't know how to do, and that's why I get to do them."
right.
You know, and a lot of times you don't have to be really good at something just to do it. Fake it till you make it, right? Jump right in. And I don't do that a lot. There's certain things I do. I'm pretty focused. I'll grab one thing and do that for 10 years. But you know, that's the parts. And I kind of sometimes I'll say that I feel bad that I can't go out and market more honey because that's the most unfamiliar, uncomfortable, scary part of the whole business is walking into a grocery store, asking somebody, can I talk to the person who buys product, and then giving them your sales pitch. That is really uncomfortable. But
that's where I'm most comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
I can do that all day.
I've learned that when I do that, the buyer is quite happy to talk to you. It doesn't always turn into a sale, but usually it does.
Right.
It'll usually either turn into, let's try. I bring in product, right? I'll bring in a couple of those 1 pounds, a liquid one and a creamed one, and I'll get a hold of the buyer and I'll say, I brought something. Bell her across the room when I see him coming. I brought something for you. Here's a gift. And I hand it to them and they start looking at it. And then they start, after I'm gone, they'll get into it and they'll taste it and they'll realize, okay, that's different. And that's where the relationship goes. And if it doesn't turn into a long-term relationship, I've just sold a whole box of honey.
Right.
Because I went into the store. So it's one of those things you kind of force yourself out of your comfort zone and do that. And, it often works out well. Not always. They don't want it. It's kind of like, okay, move on.
Guess Phil's trying to figure out his beekeeping taxes. He says he's on QuickBooks. He says he has a bad habit of putting cash in his pocket and not recording it. We just had that conversation yesterday. Brad said
the IRS doesn't have access to my channel.
I'm like you, Phil. I put that over to the side in a container. But yeah, I did get my YouTube.
My only business. I'm very careful with that. I do not want to tangle with the tax man. And I'll be honest, a lot of people I know, they'll pocket the cash a lot of times, and everything I get, somebody comes in my driveway and hands me a bunch of money and goes straight in my POS so that I pay tax on it at the end of the year. I don't want any, because that guy might be an auditor, right?
It's true. Could have the IRS just show up and buy some honey.
Yeah. And then start asking questions. So let me see this sale that you made on such and such a date. Well, you can't find it? I wonder what else you can't find.
Right.
No,
yeah, we were talking about the taxes yesterday. Matter of fact, I got my YouTube tax documentation, which it's nice to make a little bit off of YouTube, not a lot, but a little bit. But what also is calculated in there is when you remember when we gave Tim and Hannah, everybody contributed and gave Tim and Hannah some bee suits.
Yeah.
Well, that money all went into my YouTube fund, right?
Goes into
So I
your
get
income.
taxed. Yeah, now my income is getting taxed for the bee suits for Tim and Hannah. Now, obviously, I'm going to write those bee suits off, so it's net zero. But just let you know, that stuff does happen. Comes in there.
Ivan's asking about the taste of the honey. I've mentioned that red honey when, and it's not blood red or anything. It's just kind of a little bit of a rusty tinge.
Amber.
Well, yeah, that's just the point. It's not. I showed you that jar, that liquid jar that was kind of a golden color.
Mhm.
Well, that drought honey, it'll have a little bit more of a rusty tinge to it. Yeah, it tastes a little different. It's not dramatically different, but every year, my honey tastes different, and it'll taste different yard to yard. My one yard is like 3 or 4 miles from my home yard. Different honey, right? I have a competition with my landowner every year to see who produces better honey, and he usually does. But this 2024, my honey is nicer. But that's totally subjective on what I think nice honey is. So yeah, and I sometimes I'll say it's like wine, right? Because wine
Right.
has a lot to do with the weather and the season that the grapes grow in, and my honey is exactly that. It has everything to do with the weather, everything to do with the season. Yeah, there's always those regulations. My limit for regulations is $100,000, which is nice. I don't have
Mine's
to worry. I ain't
50.
making any money, so
Mine's 50,000 here.
yeah. And it's 100,000 in food. So I could sell $100,000 worth of woodenware, which God bless me if I ever did that. But that has nothing to do with that limit. It's food. It's only honey because it's only food I sell.
All right. Well, hey, I need to get in my honey house and get that going. And we've been going for almost 2.5 hours now. And Robert, he's good for at least an hour.
Well, it depends on how many questions he has. If it's one question, it's an hour.
Robert. All right. Well,
I appreciate everybody coming in. Thanks for the interaction on the. I'm looking up because I've got the comments on my big screen up here. So thanks for that interaction. I really appreciate that. I'm glad you kind of enjoyed the conversation. And do you see on your screen, Bob, how many people we were looking at?
51 right now.
Wow, that's really something. Thanks, everybody.
For 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon.
3 o'clock
Get to
Friday
work, everybody. What are you doing?
What are you doing? Get to work. Well, I should be at work too. But
They're getting paid to watch YouTube.
Okay. Well, we'll say our goodbyes. I have to walk over here and end the stream, but thanks for watching, everybody. And
Yeah,
a lot of what you saw will be out in the vlog tomorrow.
So watch the recap video tomorrow.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this with me, Bob.
Oh, anytime. Anytime. And you got Brian Cooper popped in the bottom too.
All right. So make sure you drop into Charlie's tonight. I might be there. I'm not sure what tonight holds for me, but we'll see. It's like the storm might be letting up. That didn't last very long.
All right. Well, you ready to end this thing?
Okay. Thanks, everybody.